everyone, this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make this necklace and set of earrings with the midnight blue treasure bag. However, this is a techniques video, so you can use anything you have on hand to do this particular style of necklace. Learn the technique, use whatever you have, and make something pretty. So let's go ahead and look and see what it takes to make this set. Okay, for this project today, we're going to be using quite a few items, and most of them can be found in the midnight blue treasure bag. However, if you did not get that treasure bag, this is always a techniques video. You can use what you have on hand that's similar, or just use the technique itself that I show you and come up with something pretty. So, never feel left out. So what we're going to use first from the midnight blue treasure bag is this long pointed pendant. You can use any pendant you want as long as it has a bail that you can put some jump rings through. It'll work really well with this particular method I'm going to show you. So I've got this nice big pendant here, and then we are going to be using from the treasure bag 6mm round beads. These are opaque blue half plated black, and they're just a 6mm round. You could use a gemstone, you could use crystal, whatever you want for your 6mm round. Then we have these crystals in our treasure bag. This is like a 9x7, basically a rondelle shape, and you have 5 of them in black, blue, and clear. We'll be using the 5 black ones today. Then you also have 6 bigger crystals like this in black, blue, and clear. We'll be using the 2 bigger ones for our earrings. Now, if you don't have the treasure bag, just use some 8x6 rondelles for both crystals, so you can make your earrings and your necklace with it. Then I'm going to be using a 6mm bicone. You can, again, use anything 6mm you'd like. It doesn't even have to be a bicone, but we have these 6mm bicones in our treasure bag, so we're going to be using those. And then we're going to be using from the treasure bag some chain. Now I've cut 2 pieces of 4 1/4 inch of the chain. We'll also be using more. I haven't cut it yet, but a couple more inches for the earrings. But this is subject to how long you want your necklace to be, so we'll discuss that later. You can always cut more or less to adjust the length of your necklace. Then we're going to be using the toggle clasps that came in, or a toggle clasp that was in the treasure bag. We'll use one of those, and you can use any type of closure clasp that you would like. We are going to be adding to the treasure bag 2, these are 8mm round jump rings, and then 2 4mm round jump rings, and then I'm going to be using some seed beads. I'll be using a few 11-ohs and some 8-ohs. These are nickel in the Toho line, and I am going to be using them to blend with my gunmetal color because the tone of the bail on my pendant is platinum, so this is going to kind of blend everything. So I will be using 8-ohs and a few 11-ohs, and then I'll be using a size 2 crimp bead. This is Beading size 2, and it's gunmetal colored. I will be using some bead stringing wire. This bead stringing wire is soft flex and it's medium. And just in case you do not have any soft flex, I will show you the measurements on here. So you can use something similar, maybe some Beading or whatever you'd like. The measurements are 0.019 inch or 0.48mm in diameter. And that's what I'm going to be using for my soft flex beading wire. And then I'm going to add to the treasure bag some bead caps. I have some of these on the website if you want some. Otherwise, you don't even have to use bead caps for this particular design. It doesn't truly matter. But I just wanted to add it as a design element in this. So I'm going to use some of these. You can also use whatever you have on hand. A platinum color would look just as good as the gunmetal. So you can use that too. We're going to be using a couple of eye pins and a couple of head pins. Well, 8 head pins to be exact, and we'll be using 2 eye pins. And I have those in the gunmetal tone also, but you could most definitely use stainless steel color, or you could use platinum. And a couple ear wires. Now let's see, did I leave anything out? No. So I'm also going to have a little bead clip just to clip off one end of my necklace as I hold it for crimping the other end. And then some tools, of course. I'm going to have a crimping tool, a pair of chain nose pliers, and a pair of flat nose pliers, and some end cutters. And so let's go ahead and get started with this project. Okay, to start this project, you're going to grab one of your 8mm jump rings, and we're going to open it. So here's my little opening right here. I've got my plier on one side. I'm going to put another plier on the other side and just twist it open like that. And then I'm going to put it on my pendant bail, and then I am going to close it exactly the same way I opened it, just twist it back, making sure that it's closed nice and tightly like that. And then I am going to grab the other one and do the same thing. So I'll just find my opening, place my plier on one side, twist it open, and then I'll put it on the other side of the pendant bail here so that they're right next to each other. Make sure those are closed nice and tightly because these are going to be on your beading wire. You don't want it to slip through. And then just leave them separated like this. And then grab your beading wire, and you're going to go through one of these jump rings first. Just pull it through a little bit. You don't have to go very far. And then put your 6mm bicone onto that wire. And then pull a little extra out and go through the other jump ring. Straighten it all out so that the bicone pops down in between the jump rings. Just like this. And let me back off a little more. Maybe not quite that much. And then I'm going to put my two ends together like this. Draw this center. Just, it's not going to stay there perfectly, but you want it pretty much centered for this next part. And then onto your beading wire, you're going to drop an 8/0 seed bead on either side of the wire. So pick up the right side, pick up a jump or a 8/0 seed bead, and then pick up the left side, and you get it. So just like this. And now I'm going to get a little bit closer. We're going to just work from side to side with our beads. So the first thing we're going to pick up is a bead cap if you're using them. If not, just pick up your next beads. But I'm going to pick up a bead cap from the bottom of the bead cap and drop it down. And then do the same thing on the other side. Come on, you little bead cap, you. There we go. And then I'm going to pick up on both sides 4 of my 6mm round beads. So I'll pick up 4 of them on this side, drop them down, and then I'm going to pick up 4 on this side and drop them down. Just like that. And then center my wire again, just to make sure everything's staying pretty well where I want it to be. And then I am going to pick up a bead cap, and this time I'm going to pick it up from the bottom again so that it's facing out away from the bead, not coming down around the bead. And then another bead cap the same way. So you can see they're facing with the dished part out towards the wire here. And then I'm going to pick up a 6mm bicone on either side. And then I am going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead on either side. And again, we are going to grab our wires on the ends here and center this. Hold your wires together and then grab a bead cap and go through the bottom of the bead cap and bring it down to your beads, just like that. Then we're going to use one of our 9x7 crystals and go through it with both of the wires. If that doesn't work, go through one at a time. That's fine. Sometimes these holes are a little narrower than other times. Drag that bead down to the bead cap, and this is what you should have, just like this. Now we're going to put our ends together again, and this time we're going to go from the inside of the bead cap, so the dished area, we're going to go through it with both of the wires and bring it down, just like that. And then we're going to separate the wires. Make sure everything is centered the way you want it. There's no slack, and this is what it should look like, just like this. Your two little jump rings should just go right over that bicone nicely, just like that. And then we are going to make a little bit of a narrow area here so that our two strands will come together well. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up 11 seed beads this time, and we're going to pick up 4 of them on one side here, and then an 8/0. So 4 11/0s and an 8/0, and I'm going to drop it down. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. So I'm going to pick up 4 11/0s and an 8/0 and drop it down. Sorry, I felt like I had to sneeze there. And then what we're going to do next is we are going to pick up a bead cap, and this time from the bottom on either side. And then we're going to pick up a bicone. And you're going to see you're going to have a little gap here and stuff. This will tighten up as we get everything together, and then when we crimp it, we will get all those little gaps and things out. So now I have a bicone on that side. I'm going to put a bicone on this side, and I'm going to show you the pattern. We're going to do the same pattern twice. So we'll do it once together here. Now we are going to, now that we have our bicones, we are going to pick up 3 6mm rounds onto our threads on either side here, or wires, whatever you want to call them. So now we're going to go to this side and pick up 3. Come here, just like that. And then we're going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead on either side. And then we're going to pick up a bead cap from the bottom and drop it down. Boy, my phone is just making tons of noise. Sorry, guys. And then drop it down this way. I'm going to move this down so I stay in camera here. And now I'm going to pick up a big crystal. And see what I mean by the way they're drilled, some of them. I'm going to drop that down. And then on this one, I'm going to drop this one down. And then I'm going to pick up another bead cap, and this time from the inside, and drop it down. Just like that. And then I'm going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead. Then I'm going to pick up 3 of my 6mm rounds. Just building both sides. And push them down. And then I'm going to pick up a bicone crystal on both sides. and a bead cap. And again from the inside, drop it down. Now I'm going to pick up 3 8-0 seed beads, and then I'm going to repeat the pattern. So I'll pick up 3 8-0 seed beads on either side, and then I will just go from this portion all the way up again and do the exact same pattern. So you'll need a bead cap first, and you'll go from the bottom of the bead cap and then pick up your crystal, and then just repeat. You'll do the 3 6mm rounds, and then your 8-0 bead cap, big crystal, bead cap, 8-0, 3 6mm rounds, and a bicone and a bead cap. So just do that again on both sides. Just repeat it on either side of these 8-0 seed beads, and once you have finished that pattern, we'll be back. Okay, so I have finished my pattern on both sides, and now I'm just going to add, after this bead cap, an 8-0 seed bead on either side, just to narrow it down a little bit and get it ready for my crimping process here. So I'm going to take a little clip here, and this clip is kind of tricky. See if I can get it on here. It kind of doesn't like to work very well. Yeah, you little turkey. There we go. And I'm just clipping off this side fairly tightly so that it stays together. It doesn't have to be perfect because we can push that side down after we do this side. Now I'm going to grab this side, and I'm going to make sure there's no slack. So what I'm talking about is I don't want any gap right here. There is going to be some on this side simply because that side isn't tight yet. But you want no gap here, no gap down here. Okay? So once you have that established, then you are going to grab a crimp tube and drop it down to that 8-0 seed bead. Let me get organized here. And we are going to then take our chain and drop it down. Make sure your chain doesn't have an open link. It's nice and closed, and drop it down on the beading wire like this. Let me get even a little closer here. And then we are going to go through this bead cap, or this crimp tube, I'm sorry. So go back through the crimp tube, and then down through this 8-0 seed bead. And then I'm going to go through the bead cap and 2 of these beads. So I'll go through the bicone, and I'll go through the 6mm round if I can. Right there. And then you can see my wire exiting there. I'm just going to pull on it. And then I have this huge gap. So I'm going to take the crimp tube, and I'm just going to push it down like this so that now there's no gap there anymore. And then I'm going to pull on this wire here all the way down, and then push the crimp tube back down again to make sure there's no gap. Now I'm going to hold on to these beads, and I'm going to pull this completely tight so that there's hardly any gap here at the top. I'm making a loop around the chain, and I want the chain loop very tight at this point, just like that, so I don't have a lot of gap. But you will see that, of course, where the wire is coming out, there's a tiny bit of a gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my clippers here, and I'm going to get as close as I can and clip that wire off. And now I can just gently hold onto these beads and pull on my chain just a little bit, just to increase the size of that loop. And in the process, I'm drawing that little bit of wire that was sticking out up into the bead. And now I don't have any wire sticking out. I have no gap. Everything is tight, even down here where my bead cap is. Everything looks good. And I can grab my crimping tool because now everything is held for me. You can see how my wire comes up and then around. Right where the 2 of them lay next to each other in this crimp tube, I'm going to imagine the center of that. And on my crimping tool, you can see right here, there's like a little sticky uppy. We're going to imagine where the center of those 2 wires are, and put that sticky uppy in that second divot, the one closest to the handle, right on that crimp tube and squeeze. And now we have a little crease in the center. Now we're going to place our crimp tool back on. The little tubes that were formed on either side are going to be touching the crimp tool. So you have that crimp tube in there sideways, and you're going to push again or squeeze again. And now you have a nice crimp, and you have enough movement in your loop so that your chain will move, but it's not huge. Just like that. You don't have anything sticking out, there's no gaps, and this turns out really nice. Now, of course, if you don't want to bother with all that, you can just make sure everything's tight, go through the crimp tube and cut your wire off here. But I just don't think it's as neat, and sometimes it leaves some little pokies sticking out, and I just prefer this method. So that's how I do that. And then I'm going to grab my little jump ring. So I have a 4mm jump ring here, and I'm going to open it the same way that I opened my last one. Find the opening, put plier on one side, put another plier on the other side, and twist it open. And then I'm going to put it on the chain, and then I'm going to grab my clasping and make sure that it actually will fit on there, because the bottom of these clasps are a little wide. So we'll see if a 4mm round works on there. So I'm just going to grab this and drop it on here, just like this, and it works fine. And then I'm going to close this jump ring exactly the same way I opened it, pliers on either side, and just twist it back closed, like this. And there is the back half of my necklace and my clasp. So now that this side is finished, let's just get this side set up too. So I've got my little 8/0 seed bead here. I'm going to pick up a crimp tube, pick up my chain, make sure that your chain is closed nice and tightly. Let me look at it. Looks okay. I'm going to drop it down, and then I'm going to go through that crimp tube, the 8/0 seed bead, the bead cap, the bicone, and the next 4mm round. Now I'm going to establish which side moves and which side is stable. I'm going to hold on to the stable side and pull the moving side until it's down quite a ways. Then I'm again going to push down on my crimp tube so that everything is closed in here. Then I'm going to grab the stable side with a pair of pliers here, just so I can keep things from getting loose. So on this side, you have to hold it a little bit more stable than the other side. So I've got that. Now that I've got it pretty small, I'm going to hold on to these two beads and just pull that as tightly as I can so that there's not a big loop here. It's a very small loop around the chain. Make sure everything's tight. And then I am going to cut right underneath this bead here. And then I can grab onto my chain and just gently pull, just a little bit, and then kind of compare it to the other side. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then I am going to, I think I pulled that side just a little bit bigger, but not enough to really worry about. And then I am going to, again, imagine where the center of those two wires are. Place my crimp tool on the second divot, the one closest to the handle, and squeeze. Turn it sideways, place it in the first divot, and squeeze. And now I have both sides done, just like that. Then I can go up here, grab my jump ring. So I have a 4mm jump ring again. Open this up, grab the other side of my clasp, put it on, and then put my chain on. And close that jump ring. Now you can see my center looks nice. Everything looks nice. Let me straighten up everything here and I'll back off and show you what the necklace actually looks like. So let's get it centered here. Sometimes the jump rings like to get weird. So get that all nice. And there you have it. And I think it's really pretty. We'll go ahead and make a pair of earrings, so stay tuned. I'll gather that together, show you what you need, and we'll get started on those. But there's your necklace. Okay, I wanted to discuss length with you because this turned out longer than I thought it would. So you will, if you want a necklace where the focal hangs in the middle of your chest, then you're perfectly fine with this length. You can make your chain much shorter than I did. So on the back, or you can make it longer, it doesn't matter. But at this point, if you look, when you measure on your beadboard, you put your centerpiece right here on the 0, and you're just going to measure the upper portion. That is what's going to determine the length around your neck. So in this outer divot on your beadboard. And then you can see that I am actually like 10.5 inches on one side. So that is going to be, on this side, I'm about 10. So I would say this is a 20-inch necklace because of the way that the focal is kind of dragging down the center here. So this turned out to be a 20-inch necklace, which turns out really nice because this does hang right in the center of the chest. So it would be really pretty with a sweater or something like that. If you wanted it to hang up higher, of course, just go a few inches of chain on either side and you'll have a shorter necklace. Measure it on your beadboard after you do this portion and figure out just how much you want for the length that you want. Generally, if you want something higher on your neck and you're a medium-sized person, you want it to be around 18 inches around your neck. If you're a bigger person, you want it to be around 20 inches, or if you want it to lay lower on your neck, 20 inches is good. If you're very small, 16 inches is good, or 18 if you want it to lay in the center of your chest. So that's how you will determine how long you want to make your necklace. So let's go ahead and make some earrings. This is the earring that we're going to make. I'm going to show you exactly what you'll need. You'll have to double it, of course, because you'll be making 2, and I have just out enough for 1. So we're just going to have a dangle like this. We're going to have several pieces of chain that are a little bit shorter than the central chain, and we are going to make a nice little dangle off of this bigger crystal. So these, I cannot remember, they're 12 by something. Let me see if I can look at my piece of paper here and find them. 12 by 6 millimeter. You can still just use your 8 by 6 rondelle if you're using rondelles. It'll work just fine. So that is going to be what we're going to make. And I need to grab, let's see, what size did I use? I also need a 6 millimeter jump ring out. So let me grab one of those. And this is what we're going to use. We're going to use the bigger crystal. We're going to use 4 of our bicone crystals, and this is just for 1. You're going to double this, and a 6 millimeter round, an eye pin, 4 head pins, an ear wire, and then a 6 millimeter round jump ring, 2 bead caps, some 8/0 seed beads, and we are going to use some chain. I've cut this chain very specifically. However, my tongue isn't working as well as my brain. So I have cut 11 links for 1, and then 4 times I cut 8 links. So I just counted my links and then cut off the 9th one. And that way I have some graduating size here. So this one will dangle here and all the rest will be the same length. You can cut them any length you want as long as you have one longer than the other that are exactly the same, 4 of them. Okay? So you can make any length you want of your dangles here. And let's go ahead and get started. First thing, you're going to take an eye pin and you are going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead and then a bead cap from the bottom of the cap, and then your crystal, and then a bead cap from the inside of your cap, and then you are going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead. Then we're going to do a wrapped loop on this one. So we are going to put your pliers right above that 8/0 seed bead, and you don't want a huge loop, so you're just going to go a little ways down on your pliers here. Just determine where it's going to make a nice size loop, but not huge. And then you're going to bend this wire over that back prong of your round nose plier there. Then you are now holding your plier parallel to the bead mat. You're going to, and your hand is parallel to it, you're going to now go vertical like this. And then right in that bend, and then you're going to bring the wire, the excess wire, over the top. As you do that, you're going to bring your wrist back parallel to the bead mat, and this hand is going to draw the wire underneath the pliers, just like this. And then I can center my little loop a little bit, like this. This is what you have. Now I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to bend this wire so that it's at the same angle as my pliers. I'm going to switch my hands, and I'm going to grab another pair of pliers, doesn't matter, another pair of chain nose, whatever. Move that little seed bead down, and I'm going to start to wrap this excess wire around the wire that's going down into the bead. And I'm going to wrap it about 2.5, 3 times, something like that. However long or however many it takes to tighten up against that seed bead there and keep everything nice and solid on your wire, just like that. So I went about 3 turns here. Then I am going to grab my little flush cutters and cut as close as I can. And maybe I can get a little closer than that. And maybe not. And then I'm just going to tuck this in gently, the little end that's sticking out. Be careful because you have a seed bead there. They are glass and you can shatter them. So just very gently coax that little wire in the best you can, like so. And if you have a pair of these half crimp, half chain nose Xeron pliers, it works really well because you can stick your wire in one of the little divots here on the crimp part, and it really helps just push that in. Makes a big difference. Now I'm going to straighten up my little loop there, and this is what I have. I think I'm actually going to straighten it up on both sides here so that both loops are at the same angle. Straighten it out, turn it like this. Cooperate, you. Why aren't you cooperating? There we go. Okay, now we have this part. We're going to set it aside, and then we're going to make 4 little dangles, or 5 actually little dangles. We'll do 1 with the round bead, and then 4 with the bicones, and I'm just going to show you how to do 1. You're going to do it exactly the same way. So I'll set up one of the bicones so you can see too the setup. So it's your head pin, an 8/0 seed bead, and a round. And then you're going to do the same on your bicones. You're going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead, a bicone, and an 8/0 seed bead 4 times. So let's make the center one here. You're going to make all of them exactly the same way, but like I showed you, they'll just be different beads. So we are going to place our flat nose pliers just slightly above that 8/0 seed bead, and then bend this wire over in a 90-degree angle, just like that. Then I'm going to place it over my finger in an L shape like this, and I'm going to judge about 1/4 inch of wire here and cut the excess off, right, like that. And then I'm going to grab my pliers, my round nose pliers, and I'm going to begin to turn a loop. So I'm just going to place that wire flush with the pliers at the very end and start to turn. Once I have turned as far as I can turn, I'm going to take my pliers out, turn them over, put them back in, and continue to turn. Just like that. Now, if yours is a little bent like mine, then you can just grab your flat nose pliers and straighten out that loop. And that's what you have. You're going to make one like this, or two actually, since you're making 2 pairs. And then you're going to make 4 of these, or 8, of course, since you're making 2 pairs. If you want to make all your components at once, then you'll want 2 of these, 2 of these, and 8 of these. And we will be back. Okay, so this is what you should have now. And what we're going to do now is we're going to attach them to the chain. So take your one longer piece, which mine is 11 links, and then grab your 6mm round component, grab right where you can see that it opens, and just lift that end up like this, and then put it on the chain and close your loop again by just twisting it back in, just like that. You're going to do that with all of your units. So the long one is the 6mm round, and then go ahead and do for your bicones the exact same thing. Okay, so now this is what I have. So I am going to grab a 6mm round jump ring now, and I am going to open it same way we've been opening all of our jump rings, and I'm going to start with a bicone, and I'm going to drop 2 bicones down on the last link of the chain here, and then I will grab my long one so that it will be in the center, and then my other 2 bicones, and then I'm going to drop it down on the end of the eye pin that I wrapped here. I'm going to drop this component on the 6mm jump ring, and then I'm going to close it. Oop, and drop it all and make it all crazy. So let me close this. At least they didn't all fall off. I had it mostly closed. And there goes my phone again. So this is what we have. Okay, so now this is what we have. We're going to grab the ear wire, open the loop on the ear wire, and drop down the component that you just built. Close your loop, and voila, you have an earring. A very lovely little set of earrings, just like this. And a very lovely little necklace that is tangled in my pliers here. And I think it's quite a pretty set. So let me arrange it nice, show it to you what it looks like, and then we'll call it good. Nice little necklace earring set. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you make something similar if you don't make exactly the same thing with your bag. So anyway, that's what we've got. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.